because the Spirit is on me and say, you were 8 years old when you went into God's throne room. But in that time, now I have to think about it, then when it's happened in the hypnosis, I was not 8 years old. I was 48. It was 40 years later. And that God come and talk to me. So you maybe understand it, but just now I don't understand it. Because I was a child, 8 years old, when I went in to the cave and go into where God's throne was. And God was talking to me, and he pointed me with a golden stick. And like like this, you have maybe seen when they do that on the king and queen or knight, on the shoulder with the golden stick there. And he did that to me, God. And after he was doing this to me, I started to grow up. And I say that, no, I grow up. And it seems like I think I start to understand it, that I was chosen when I was 8 years old. Because I asked many questions when I was 8 years old too. I was for a short time, when my father was not so drunk, he took me to a church. It was not my mother that wanted me to a church, but my father took me to a church. And I asked those pastors in the church about question that they shake their head and touch me and say, God's way you not always understand. They told me, and I'd be so angry because I wanted the answer of it, what I have seen and heard. I got very much vision and déjà vu, maybe, of what have happened in that cave. And I was 8 years old and asked the church, but they couldn't answer my questions. So, and then when I was about 15 years old, I left everything, and my father have divorced my mother, so he didn't live in the city, so he couldn't bring me to a church anymore, and I didn't want to go because I was in the Salvation Army the last time. I was really into the church when I was young, and in that time they bring in rock music and pop music, and then I was thinking, this is not my church. My church should not have this rock and pop music. It should have their old music that they have had from the start. So I left because of the music. But I love pop and rock music, but not in the church. So, but after I left the church, Salvation Army, and I was 16 years old, and I had finished my school, and Then I took care of small children in the home, and one of the children was sick, and I have to go to the doctor with her. And waiting for that little girl to come back from the doctor, I sit in the waiting room, and that is maybe important to know. I was in the waiting room, and the spirit away also, not literally only. And then I heard God talking to me. And then I did what he told me to do. I was 16 years old. But as it is when I do the healing for, when God is telling me to do healing, I don't know what I'm doing. So I didn't take it as God. I was not ready to bring in God into my life. And then it took me 30 years. So I live my life like everyone else. So I know how it is to live a teenager life and be with boyfriends and drinking. And I never have smoke. Thank God for that. But drinking I have done. And I was with people that do drugs, but I didn't do drugs. But I was drinking with them and was friends with them, so I saw it. And then when I was homeless in the United States, I had to live with druggies. And it was drugs in the church also that I saw. So it started to be time for me to end. I don't know. It's a spirit here that it's a very not common name for me, but this spirit is saying, Marion, your name is Marion. It's a man. He have beard, short beard, grey beard. And then he showing me he was smoking. He was a smoker. And that's why I say this with smoking. Because he was already here. And he coughing now of all the smoking. So you know him, Marion, that he say a lung. Oh, I have hard to say it. This function, it's special name on it. It's not so common lung disease, but he died of that. And he wanted to talk to you that he say that you have hard to understand that this is true, that we can come through and talk to those people that we left behind. And it can be in generations. And I am your mother's father. He's telling me this. He say that. So you know who I am. I don't know if he's fooling me, but he say Leonard or Leonard. Something with a L to do, a little longer name. Maybe it's not his name, but someone that you know. He have He don't smoke cigarettes, he smoke a pipe. So that's what he telling you, that to understand that this is for real. This is what he's saying. That's what he wanted to come through and say. I have some people's name that is Leonard or Leonard, so they can be in my family tree maybe. And I thank you in Ohio, in Columbus. I saw that you have downloaded 191 episodes from my podcast. So it's still going on, even if there is not many people per day that listen. But solely there is people that want to download, because I tell you that I don't know the future of this podcast, because this podcast was made because the Spirit was telling me to do it. And then one day they maybe say, it's okay, you can stop it now. And I don't know how to get those money to pay for the platform. So I don't know the future, because I am a poor person if God not give me the money to do something for him. So I maybe don't know if I get the money to pay. And it will come up now in December, I think, and January, to pay for the podcast. So I don't know how YouTube will use my podcast, but I have my podcast on YouTube that you can listen. And then when the podcast is not here anymore, maybe, then I continue on YouTube to talk to you, and I will show you things in Israel on my YouTube. So it's very important to find my YouTube, to continue to follow me. And if you want to stay in a platform that you are and listen, then you need to help me, to support me with money to could pay it, because there is much money for me that I'm poor. I get about $300 to live on each month, so I can't pay it.